Okay, here we are. We'll start with this map. Okay, this map is similar to the map that I walked into the first day when I walked into the sales office. The sales office was right here. All these were models. Okay, there was about 7 or 8 models. And it started right here. And all this was parking area. There wasn't much sold. I think these were sold along here, some were sold in here, along here, some were sold here, but this, I'm going to blow it up, Parcel 12. When I first saw it, there were scatterings of sales, and a lot of them, if they were on the course, and these, most of the houses or lots on the course were sold. And this right here, they wouldn't even show it to you. When we walked in the office, this on that big table, that 10 foot by 10 foot or 8 foot by 8 foot table with the big map on it, this was covered up. All right. They had a big plastic placard on it so you couldn't see it. All right. Now, you're going to see me do this a lot. But let me show you what we're looking at here. Here's the driving range. Here's the first hole, second hole, third hole, fourth hole, Dog Lake 4. Fifth hole, and the signature hole, the lake hole, the par 3 signature. This is where they have the they drive trucks in from Sundance Parkway over our cart path. They'll park like 2 4-ton trucks here for a hole-in-one contest shooting over the lake. Then here we have your 7th hole over here, your 7th tee boxes, and here's the green, and then here's your 8th hole, and here's your 9th hole. Okay, when we first walked into the office that day, my friend and I, we were right about here, right? There was no new models anywhere else. The new models now are over here. Okay, all the new models are here. When they closed down and sold these models, and what they were, these were starter kits for home. These were small lots. The front 9 was all small lots. Okay, with small models. Okay, and when they went to the new models, they used to fly a big American, there was a big American flagpole right in the parking lot of the a sales office, flying the big American flag, maybe Meritage flag or Hancock, I don't know. But when they sold all these, they went and built new models, and they moved the flag and everything over here, and the big parking lot became here, and they started selling the back 9. All right, but they had to sell out the front 9 first. This is Sundance Parkway, the loop road that circumnavigates, circumscribes, whatever. This is how you can get from Yuma Road. This is Yuma Road right here. Sundance Parkway loops around, all the way around, back to Yuma Road. Okay. This is Sundance Parkway and Yuma Road. This is Sundance Parkway and Yuma Road. Okay. 20 years ago when I bought here, you could drive from the clubhouse here at night, and I did. I'd leave, have dinner, have a few drinks after eating. I'd have a meal, and when I came home, I came home Sundance Parkway, like this. And it was very rural. Most of these weren't sold out. This wasn't sold out. This wasn't sold out. These they just started on. They hadn't sold out. I was the first buyer, so they hadn't sold out this one yet. This one that was partially sold out, they filled that in. They filled these in. They all filled in. And now we've got the new building going on above. What I'm trying to get across is that the frequency of cars over the last 20 years on this loop road, Sundance Parkway, that loops. Everything inside of Sundance Parkway is 55 and older, Sundance Adult Village. Everything inside this parkway is 55 and older. It was planned out on paper. They did all the planning on paper for this about 22 years ago, 24 years ago. Everything is blueprinted. Everything is blueprinted. The elevations of everything, the roads, the sewer pipes, the house, the finished floor elevation for every house on this map was figured out back 22, 23 years ago. The grading map that was produced with all the signatures and stamps on it, the grading map is a duplicate of this, has stamps and everything all over it. That grading map 20 years ago, 22 years ago, had every lot, all 1,100 lots. The finished floor elevation was figured out. The engineer took his calculator, his slide rule, whatever he figured out what's the depth of the sewer pipe here going down the street, what's the depth of the sewer pipe here, what's the depth of the sewer pipe here, and for every lot they calculated the ideal angle for the sewer pipes to run the street. They calculated the best finished floor elevation to efficiently move a passive sewage system, a passive system. There's no wires to it, doesn't have a motor, it doesn't have a battery. It relies on differential pressure. The differential between where the sewage starts at the house and where it ends. That controls the flow rate, the speed. They tampered with that. Okay, I'll get to that later and I'll show it to you later, but I want to explain to you every lot here 22, 23 years ago had already been assigned a finished floor elevation. On the front page of the grading map, there's a grading map, master grading map that has all kinds of signatures and stamps on it. And there's a utility map. The utility map maps out all the plumbing. The utility maps out all the plumbing, where the sewer pipes are, where the water pipes are, where the electrical conduits, where everything runs is on your utility map. Now, the grading map is the map you use to plot all the elevations. When you go to build a house, when you finally sell a house over here, these were some of the last houses sold. When you finally sell a house on one of these lots out there, there's like a 23, 22-year-old finished floor elevation that was calculated by how deep the sewer pipe was. Okay, now I'll start my little presentation. Okay, I'll start my little presentation. Here we go. What you're looking at is the drainage easement. You're looking at Tract A. You're looking at the north end of Tract A where it meets the sidewalk. Okay? Let me give you a few numbers here. This tree right here is 19.5 inches above the sidewalk. It's only 29 feet away, and they planted it right in the middle of where the access easement was for the golf course. They took it out of service. Do you understand? These plants right here are planted in the middle. All these plants are watered by the membership. That tree was watered by the membership. All these plants along the boundary of the access easement get watered by the membership. They get trimmed by the membership. About once every 6 months, 3 or 4 guys come up here and they spend the day trimming all these plants at our expense. Okay? It's a common area. Here's what it looked like. Here's what I saw basically the first day I ever played golf here. The first day I ever played golf here, this is what I was looking at. And I'm going to blow it up to show you. This is the shingle they were hanging out. This was the bait and switch I dealt with. This right here advertised a cart path easement into this neighborhood. Right? This was it. To anybody that was going to buy a house up on these lots up here. Now, I want you to look. You see this tower out here? Okay. This tower used to say $99,000 for a house on a golf course. They had an ad up there, $99,000 for a house in a golf course community. Another thing I want you to observe is you see these tee boxes, the gold tee boxes, or the silver. These are the silver. These are the ladies. Okay? Can you imagine an amateur golfer? This is what they had for when they first opened the golf course, and all the local Buckeye people started playing golf here for next to nothing. Amateurs, beginners. Buckeye finally had their own little golf course for the locals. Well, the locals started playing this course, and they got used to having this tee box right here where they could just step off. Okay? Every one of these lots get bombarded by golf balls. Every one of them. Day in and day out. Because they've got this tee box right here, and they've got a little forgiveness here. They got it moved up. Usually, they move it all the way back here to where my hand is on the corner. So they put it as close to the lots and this lot line, this boundary line. Another thing I want to show you and explain to you that this line right here, when I talk about the grading map, that line right there is high, probably 1.5 to 2.5 feet high for its whole length. Okay, I have the as-built plans that the surveyor measured this line. Okay, the surveyor measured this line and on the map there's a box at every location, every property line. Every lot property line between 2 houses and the golf course, there's a stake driven in the ground. And where that stake is, has an assigned elevation. Okay? It's an assigned elevation for drainage. For drainage of the houses, for drainage of the lots. This golf course was, as the engineers designed this golf course, and they designed these elevations, especially the property line elevations. You're looking at the property line elevations for every new house that came along that was built here. This line is 1.5 to 2 feet, 2.5 feet to 3 feet high in its whole length. Okay? And this cart path right here, this is what's called grouted riprap. Grouted riprap. On the prints, on the plans, on everything for the legal description on the grading map, on the utility map and the grading map, the legal description for the end of Tract A and Tract A. Tract A and the end of Tract A, the whole length of Tract A was supposed to be this grouted riprap. What this was a bait and switch. Okay? The real cart path went straight up the hill. The real cart path went straight up the hill. It shows on the map right here, went straight up the hill. But because they raised, remember, they raised it, and over here, I think they raised it about 4 feet. Okay, the cart path, and I'm getting focused on this. There's so much to talk about, but we'll get to a picture later. But can you imagine as a new buyer, they come out and they show you the lot. They bring you out here. You pick a lot in the room. You come out here and you look at the lot like there, and you see this. You play around the golf. The salesman gives you a round of golf. You go out and play it. You go back. The salesman's there, and you come out and you walk the lots. What do you think goes through your head when you make an offer on this? One of these lots up here. What do you think goes through your head? What do you think that my consciousness told me how I perceived what I was buying? I thought I was buying. Now, I'll let you know, when you buy into an HOA or any development like this, you're not going to get to see the plans. You can't go downtown and request because you're not an owner, you can't get the utility maps, you can't get the grading maps, you can't get a copy of the CC&Rs. You're going into this blind. Okay? Now, I want to show you. This is what that tree I just showed you a few slides back, this is what it started as. This picture was taken in the spring of 2004. This was taken in the spring of 2004. Spring and summer. All right? It's now 2023. That in 10 years, that tree became a giant. And all these shrubs on each side became giants. This was a privacy. What we were watering. Everybody was watering these, and they put this tree here right in the middle of our access easement. They filled it in with plants. They made it so it wouldn't drain because the water had to go uphill for the first 29 feet, had to go uphill 19.5 inches. There was no drain here. They filled it in, okay? I've got a document from Woody Scouton that's about 10 or 12 years old where he wrote a letter to the HOA ordering them to dig this out to the original. They didn't do it. What they did is they gave the town of Buckeye a huge balloon payment to their favorite charity, All Faiths Charity. Okay, got a huge balloon payment from Charlie Waters. Okay? And then about 10 years later, 8 years later, when I found out what they had done here and that this was all out of compliance, I challenged them by walking on here. I got thrown in jail for missing a court date that I never got served on. That's how they thanked me for my service out here in Buckeye. They threw me in jail on a warrant that I never got served on. It was a political arrest. It was to keep Charlie Waters happy, all right, and to keep the HOA happy. We don't want to spend our treasury. We don't want to spend our treasury, our HOA treasury, correcting this. We'd rather give a balloon payment to Jackie Meck, and then the next year after I got arrested for walking here, they threw me in jail for 4 days. When I got out of jail and I went in front of a judge, this Mickey Mouse judge, this kangaroo court in downtown Buckeye, I admitted to him. I had no idea about any warrant about me. And the judge held up my warrant in front of the envelope in front of me. And more or less in my face let me know, you're in Buckeye. We don't have to send you the warrant. We don't have to tell you. We can throw you in jail anytime we want. All right? Here's your warrant right here. We never mailed it to you. Ha, ha, ha. What do you think of that? You're out there in HOA land pushing buttons. All right? We don't care about your plat map that says you can walk there in a drain. We don't recognize plat maps in Buckeye. All right? We recognize dollars and cents. Okay? This golf course is not going to be a skid plate in a storm. All right? Okay, here we go. I love this picture. When I say I was the first buyer, one of the first buyers, here it is. Here it is. Now, this is what I was looking at. I want to show you over here. Let's go all the way over, and I'll show you where the tee box is, how this was originally set up. Okay? Originally set up. They're like on the gold tee right there. Might be the gold tee or the black tee. The black tee was about 165 yards. 165 yards. Okay? All along, those are two houses. That's a couple of houses. That might be the house for 317. This is the house, or 318, 319. That's the way the house came. It came in a log cabin kit. You could get a big round tube and put it all in and it look like a log cabin kit. Everything's marked. Okay? But getting back, you're going to have to put up with this. I hit the wrong button a lot. But going away from them, I want you to see this is what's called a head wall. This is called a head wall. They're all over the golf course. It's wherever they take water, storm drain water out of these communities. And I want to get across to everybody that I might have moved past it a few minutes ago in another slide, but I want to get across to everybody that when the engineers who worked from Buckeye, they weren't local people from Buckeye. They were engineers that were charged with making sure that every neighborhood in Buckeye, every parcel, every house drained properly onto the golf course. In their mind, to the engineers who drew up the grading map and the utility map, to those engineers, the golf course, the intent of the golf course, the purpose of the golf course, the reason for the golf course was to be a neutral skid plate place for the water to go in a monsoon. Any storm, any water, any flooding we get in these neighborhoods will be dumped onto the golf course. That, when the guy was designing it, he wasn't designing it for Midwest investors that didn't want to share a drain. All right? And the reason that he didn't draw the head wall to be down here instead of up here, he engineered the head wall to be right here. 89 feet that way. 89 feet from where it is now and 5 feet higher than where it is now. That head wall is supposed to be up here, 89 feet backward and 5 feet higher. Okay? The guy in Scottsdale or whatever, he engineered it that way. He put the head wall here because the head wall has this tube right here, this 24-inch tube. I want to let you know it's the only drain for 13 acres. All of Parcel 12 has to come through this drain. Everything. All the water that comes down 233rd and Twilight Trail and all the other streets. All right, Lasso, I think Lasso's a street. Everything from the mailboxes in Parcel 12, it starts at the mailbox. All that water ends up at the other end of this pipe. And this pipe got extended 89 feet. And on page 49, or one of the pages on the utility map, there's a written question on the top of the page where someone who is reviewing what took place, he's reviewing the as-builts. And he sees at the as-built that this was built here instead of here. And the first question was, how did this pipe get extended 51% of its value, or 89 feet? He didn't say anything about the elevation change. He just asked the surveyor, how did this pipe get extended 89 feet from the original plan? The original plan, the original document, the standalone legal document for this community is the utility map. And I'm asking you, now that I'm looking at the as-built, why did you build it down here? Why is it built down here? Basically, why did it? And the answer from the surveyor was golf course redesign. Double checked. It is what it is. Golf course redesign was when that plan got out here from North Phoenix or Scottsdale, from the engineer, the people who were real engineers. When that plan got out here, any thought that the golf course was going to be a skid plate in a storm was dismissed, was set aside, was deprioritized. All these drains and everything, and all these lots, and these lots right here, and it's going to depend on who the buyers are. Okay? This right here, where it ends on private property. It was supposed to go straight up the hill. They didn't put it straight up the hill because they added 5 feet to they added about 4 or 5 feet to this elevation right here. If that elevation was down here and the head wall was here, they wouldn't have to go over here. It's called rise and run. It would have looked odd. It would have looked odd. It would have been hard to drive up. It would have been hard to walk down if they would have went to the original laid out access easement, because it went straight up the hill, not over here. They did this to gentle out the run, to make it look like more presentable to the eye. It wasn't a straight uphill shot where the golf cart had to go way uphill. All right, so they did this. But here, when I say I was one of the first investors, and I have proof. First of all, I don't know. I don't think they have graded my lot yet. I got other paper. They haven't graded the lots yet. They haven't done the landscaping yet. I paid Creative Environments. The way it worked with Creative Environments is your front yard, which faced the street, had to be landscaped. And that got landscaped for free by Creative Environments. That came with the house package. You're going to get your front lawn because people, we gauge the neighborhood from the street. All the houses on the street, Creative Environments gives you a free landscape job, okay? And then you hire them for the backyard. Not only did I hire them for the backyard, for one house, I did it for 3 houses. Let's show you. I want to get it across to you. This is what the neighborhood looked like on the day that I put in a contract to buy the 2 lots next to this. And to show you, this is I-10 freeway. When I want to tell you how close we are to the I-10 freeway, there it is. That's I-10. That's how close you are to I-10. I'm less than a half a mile from the ramp to I-10, going west and east. Well, anyway, what happened was when they got this house framed up, it was basically framed. I hadn't picked the floor tile, I hadn't picked the cabinets, I hadn't picked the toilets, I hadn't picked anything, the cabinets or anything. They had just framed it up. And this house and this house, like I say, we were the first 2 houses, pads laid. This one is out of compliance by 1.5 inches. This one is out of compliance by 2.5 inches. Well, I know mine on the paperwork. I have a permit that proves on a permit, if you extrapolate the numbers out, that it extrapolates out to, they lowered this house 2.5 inches on purpose. The reason they did that, they lowered this house 1.5 inches, although I haven't seen their permit. If the owners would get their hands on the permit, I'm sure the permit wouldn't agree with the master plan. This right here, this house, they sunk it 2.5 inches. When they did that, they tampered with the sewer pipes. They put a choke on my sewer pipes. They literally degraded the flow rate of my sewer pipes going to the street on purpose. Why did they do that? They needed a place to park water. Now, I've got a neighbor, my second neighbor. My first neighbor, I finally got him to let me take the water levels. And I finally sent him a letter, and I have a letter from him allowing me to work the area between their 2 houses. For the first 7, 8, 10 years, until I found out from getting the grading map what they did, they sunk this house. They made right there off my patio, between these 2 houses, one of the lowest spots in all of Parcel 12. The lowest spot in Parcel 12 was supposed to be over here. That was supposed to be a dugout, draining onto the golf course. It was supposed to be a cart path easement, a pedestrian easement. It was supposed to be accessible for maintenance vehicles and emergency vehicles. It's clearly the HOA isn't using it right now for its highest and best use. Its highest and best use should be as many functions as you can give it. Another thing I want to show you is this is the head wall. Okay, like I said before, this head wall is supposed to be up there, 89 feet from where it is and 5 feet higher. This is what they did when the plan got out here. They took this out of service. They filled it in, and then this lot and the other lot got a freebie. They got a 3,000 square foot arboretum, scenic easement, place all to themselves, private property, no golf carts. And this, they just ended it. This lasted for about 2 or 3 years where this got all filled in, this was filled in, there was no cart path. Finally, they planted a tree there. You don't see a tree now, but about 3 or 4 years later, they planted a tree there. Another thing that you don't see here is railings around this head wall. and they had to put up railings. All this should have been up here. But like I said, I was the first one. And about, and another thing, they had one tree in front of me. I had one little tree. Okay, now I've got two. Soon after this house was built and I bought it, and I bought the other two lots, when I come down here, I thought, are the people blind down here? Don't the people see what they have down here? Are these people from Buckeye? Are they mushrooms? Are they in a cave? Don't they see what they have here? Excuse me for understanding what I was looking at. You're looking at I-10. The exit is like where my hand is, not much farther than where my hand is. Watson Road, right there, on a golf course, overlooking the signature hole. I bought these other two lots and built the houses for $150 each. Okay? It took over almost a year. I put the paper on them like in March. I think it was in March. I put the offer on it. It was immediately accepted. I got great credit. The guy says, if you put our lost leader, and the guy helped me. That's another thing. The guy, when I showed that I had interest, I had already, by this point of the construction, they had about $60,000 of my money, upfront cash. Before they ever laid the pad or got the permit, they had $30,000 of my money. They got $2,000 on December 7th, 2003, and then at New Year's and Christmas, 2004, I gave them another check for $28,000. They had $30,000 out of my money when 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, they went down to Buckeye and changed the map. They changed the map. They said, we want to lower this house 1.5 inches, and we want to lower this one 2.5 inches. And on the permit, it said sold. It was sold. It was sold on December 7th, 2003. I got canceled checks, everything to show it. I got the canceled check where I gave them money over in January 1st. I came down for a week. All right, stayed with my friend. All right, but this right now, I can't see the lake. And right here, I know this one and this one are both out of compliance. The sewer pipes got tampered with. I have a permanent lien. You guys can take your $100 a day lien now that's up to about $60,000 right now. It's up to about $60,000 that the HOA board was weaponized. They went into executive session with a lawyer who's a collections lawyer. You think he's going to give them any legal advice about fixing Tract A? You think he's going to give them any legal advice? They're not getting any legal advice about what they did over here. And when I go to a lawyer, I've been to about 4 lawyers. I'll document it all later, who I went and saw. I went to about 4 lawyers, and each one of them, when I tell them, the town of Buckeye did this, the HOA won't dig this out, this is illegal, okay, and the golf course is targeting me with foul balls every day. All right, they put that tee box as close to my lot as they can get it, and to satisfy themselves that they know that anything that's a foul ball all day long hit by an amateur or beginner golfer, if they hit a foul ball, we've got that tee box right over next to his yard. We're more or less guaranteed. We've targeted him. All right, we're burning a cross in his yard. What else? How can I explain it when you put the tee box back as far back and as far to the cart path as you get? You're aiming for me. The collateral damage. You're saying to me any collateral damage that happens from the tee box, you're going to deal with it. Okay? I've forgotten a lot of things. I got to go back a couple to show you. I still haven't told you what they did. Maybe it'll show up here. It might show up here. I got to go back further. Back further. Here we go. Maybe I told this, maybe I didn't. I got so wrapped up. Okay. I happen to have photo proof. Here's the photo proof. All right, what happened? You see these plants right here? Those plants were propped on a decoy drain that they dug out. You're going to see in later photos, but these aren't here anymore. You don't find these anymore here. All right, and even a couple of months. By the time I closed the house, these were all moved. They were taken from the line where this easement started. They were taken from the golf course line and moved back. But they were planted here temporarily. I'll show you another video. They temporarily to sell. I worked on airplanes. I'm very familiar with the second set of eyes. Okay? You had to have a second set of eyes on everything out here. It had to be sold to an engineer or an overseer or somebody that was certified to certify it. Okay? Somebody certified to certify. Anybody understand that language? Well, the person that came out to certify it, they cut a decoy. They took a tractor and they just cut the thing. They roughed it out. And then they planted plants like right up here to the where the cart path starts coming off the golf course. And the person that came out and bought it, he came out and bought it. He saw these plants. He saw where you roughed it out, where it was a rough draft. It's going to the cart path. It looks like it's all right. That guy wasn't familiar with the plans. If he was taking a good look at the plans, he would have seen that this thing doesn't take the snake-like way up to here, up to this person's lot. He would have looked at the plans and seen that's supposed to be a straight shot, straight uphill. So somebody bought this off. They kissed his ear. Somebody kissed his ear. What I'm talking about, kissing your ear. I used to have to sell jobs to inspectors and second set eyes. I did it for 30 years. I did it for 30 years, dealing with inspectors who inspected my work. A lot of things in aircraft maintenance are so critical, you can't allow one person to work on it and sign it off and take their word that it's right. You need a second set of eyes. The second set of eyes that came out here, when he saw that roughed out ditch and he saw all the plants lining it all the way, he bought it off. And they kissed his ear and they said, look, we'll finish it later. You've seen our intent. This is where it's going to go. We promise we'll finish it later. That guy, by the time he hit Watson Road from the development, they started filling this in. Serious. When he left the development, by the time he hit Watson Road or Sundance Parkway, the order was given, fill it in. Pull these plants up, move them back, fill in the easement. All right, it's going away. This isn't going to be a drain that drains the golf course. Okay, we've gone through this. Let's see if I can get to something new. Again, here they are. You see those plants? You see these plants? They outlined that roughed-in drain. All right, they had filled it in by now. This, you see all this rock? They had filled it in. They had pulled the plants that extended from here and went out to the end of the line. They dug those up and put them back here. and then they filled everything in. That roughed out drain they had, they filled it in. Now, this is 317. These are the first two lots, the first two pads that were ever laid. Okay? They were laid per a permit. They were laid by a subcontractor who was going to lay nothing but what was on the permit. So they had to have what I call a forensic. That's why I have a forensic. That's why I have a smoking gun in the form of my permit for this house. I have the permit for this house. I have the signed permit from someone downtown. They scribbled their name. There's nowhere where you can tell who it was. You don't know who it is. It's a scribbled name. It's a stamped permit. Stamped Downtown Buckeye. All right? When they generated the permit, they lowered this pad 2.5 inches on purpose. So all the sewer pipes, we're going to see like sewer pipes like this and this and that. We'll get on to them. But I can tell you, let me blow this up to show you. It's filled in now. What they did is these plants right here went all the way out to the golf course property line. As soon as the guy bought off, they dug them up and moved them back here, and this all got filled in. All right, and this pad right here, I haven't seen the permit for it, but I've already surveyed it with my water levels. This pad is 1 inch higher than my pad. We used to get lakes. What caused is they built, you can see right here, you see where it's all uphill and bowled out right here? They built an undisclosed, undocumented retention basin on my yard. There's the berm. They sunk this 2.5 inches. They made this the new highway for water out of the parcel. They filled in the other one. You see, this one's filled in. They put a tree 29 feet. What it was right here, you know what the elevation of this right here above the manhole? The tree in the middle of the easement, 29 feet from the manhole, was 19.5 inches. So the water, to get out of the neighborhood of that pipe backed up, the water had to go up 19.5 inches to get out of the neighborhood. Right here, right now, finished grade is about 9 inches. It's about 50 feet, 55 feet away from the manhole, and it's only 9 inches above the manhole. Where you got this tree over here, right about here, a few feet out of here, that was 19 inches. This is built wrong. This was graft. This was Jim Crow. You want to define Jim Crow? Here it is. This is critical race theory. He's not, when I say that parking lot, there's the sales office right there. That was the design center right there. But that was the sales office. And when I say it was all parking lot, there it was. Here's the big American flag they had over it. This sales office is gone. They brought out a bulldozer or a backhoe one day, and they knocked it down in about a half an hour. In a half an hour, it was a pile of lumber, and then they hauled it away because the way it was built at the sales office, the plumbing, the electric, the communication, the telephone, everything else, it wasn't set up as a house. They got rid of it. My friend from California, when she came down, she was like, we always referred to her as the real estate guru. She had a golden thumb when it was anything with real estate. She bought that house. From the minute she saw what I bought here, she was hounding the sales office to sell her that house because it's on the lake, it's on the signature hole. And they did. They called her up when they were ready to move. They called her up. They gave her a price, and she bought it. There's another sale. So there's 4 sales to Meritage came from me. Plus my buddy from Wisconsin that came in and bought a house. Plus all the houses that were bought that he brought in, people he brought in. But here, right here, now, this is like one of the first days I ever saw this. This is why he told me, we can't sell you. We can't sell you anything up there. I want to show you what the T-box is. When I say that the T-boxes are now an anachronism, an anachronism is out of place and out of time. It'd be like World War I troops. If you made a movie about World War I's and instead of the troops rolling their own cigarettes, they were smoking filtered cigarettes, Marlboro filters. If you had a World War I movie and a soldier was pulling out a pack of Marlboros, that would be an anachronism. Out of place, out of time. Okay? Well, I want to talk about these tee boxes. These tee boxes right now, where they tee off from, is like right here. Okay? Harmless. When there was no houses here, it was harmless to have a tee box there. Harmless. Okay? Now, what I experienced, and I always talk about anybody out there that knows any pilots out there? Any pilots that understand what density altitude is? Density altitude. That cold, 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 dry, dry air is muscle air. You can knock over a tree with cold, dry air because it has a punch. It has muscle. It's density. That's what I'm trying to get to. Cold, dry air has huge density. It grabs a golf ball. It can move a golf ball as much as 25 yards on a drive if it's cold enough and dense enough. If the golf ball has a little bit of action on it. If the guy hit a high fade into a wind that's hard and cold, okay? Now, this happens all the time in the winter here on this hole. This is the 5th hole. And I'll tell you, the people, if you go down and walk down this fairway and look at the houses along here, their roofs, all their roofs that got tiles replaced. They get hit all the time. A lot of houses here, they've either got huge, they're allowed to put up huge hedgerows, or they're allowed to put up screening, netting on their patio because they're constantly being hit by golf balls all the time. You got the golf tees are on the right side of the fairway. All the houses are on the right side of the fairway. What I propose, the only tee that's on the left side of the fairway, or even what I call sensible, that uses a sensible adult logic, is the ladies' tee. I think this is the ladies' tee over here. This is the ladies' tee. These are the men's tees. The silver in the front, the gold in the back, and then back here, this elevated part, is the black one. But how hard do you think it is for a young guerrilla golfer starting out? He's learned how to make contact. He's killing the ball, but he doesn't know how to correct a weak grip. He's hitting a fade every time he hits the ball. He can't figure it out. And he doesn't see it as a problem. Okay? He doesn't see it as a problem when he puts something in somebody's yard. All day long, balls laying right here. All day long. Okay? Anybody get that? All day long. On this corner. This corner gets hammered all day long. That's why they put that tree right there. That's why they put the tree in the middle. They put it strategically located in the middle of the easement to protect an array of windows on the Silver Spur model. Okay, here's this dummy. That's the decoy. Let me show you what the decoy. See, this was before they ever cut ground here. There's the decoy they cut. They cut a decoy. You see where they got ridges right here? It looks like a ditch. That's a decoy. I'm going to show you in another picture the rest of it. All right. There it is. Now, a year later, or months later, it isn't a ditch anymore. It isn't roughed out. Once they got these lots sold, they figured we'll fill it in now. But this house is 2.5 inches low. These sewer pipes right here, their 100-yard dash to the street is an 110-yard dash. Is it equivalent to a 110-yard dash to the street? Any engineers out there? Any hydraulic engineers out there? Anybody that knows anything about civil engineering? What happens when you drop these sewer pipes at the start 2.5 inches on a 90 foot or 100 foot run to the street? What did you do to the flow rate? Well, everybody's mumbling. I can't. Nobody in downtown Buckeye. I have the permit with me and I have the master documents with me. And when I walk into downtown Buckeye, I go to the second floor. And I get to the second floor. They got a receptionist there. And I say, I want to talk to an engineer. She asks me for my name. And when I give her my name, a few minutes later, she comes back and says, nobody's here to talk to you. When you get off the elevator, right next to the elevator, close by, is a wall with about 40 or 50 business cards of all the engineers that are on that floor. And not one there. I'm here on a business day. During the business day, I'm trying to talk to an engineer, and nobody's going to talk to me. I did that twice. The first day I just walked out. The second day I was a little more determined, a little more passionate. I wanted an answer. I wanted to know how this got dropped 2.5 inches, why they did this, why they picked me to do it too. All right. Now I'll tell you how I determined that this right here is 1 inch higher than mine. The other house. For years, the other neighbor who was a snowbird, they didn't spend the summer here. They were from Colorado. If they weren't here over the winter, it used to be a parade of people here. They'd come here for a couple weeks, open up the place, and then it was a parade of renters. Maybe 2 or 3 renters over the winter period. One renter would come in, a couple from back home for a month or so, and then another couple for a month or so, another couple for a month or so. But during that period of time, I had pictures, photos, videos, and I was showing this guy whenever he was here that, you see what we're getting here? We're getting a lake here. We're getting a lake here. You see the video I sent you? We're getting a lake. You see the pictures I have? This isn't supposed to happen. So I convinced him to let me take my water levels. Him and he finally relented and said, okay, let's measure. I said, well, I know mine is 2.5 inches low. I know it is. I know it is. I've got the document. Plus, I've compared it to the house on the other side of the house. The other side of the house, it's 3 inches lower per my water levels, and it's supposed to be the same height. The last 3 houses on this side of the easement right here are all supposed to have the same finished floor elevation. Exactly the same. The house on the left side of this house, and this house, and this house are all supposed to have the same, and they don't. The last one that was compliant was the house that was on the left side of this house, over here on this side. This house and this house are out of compliance. They were built out of compliance on purpose. Not only did they build them out of compliance, they took this out of service, this drain. They filled it in. They made it one of the highest elevations in the corner. So that, know what? This tree right here, 29 inches above the sidewalk. They got a huge drain right here. They got a drain right here. The master, the only drain for 13 acres. It comes down, 2 rivers come down 2 streets. What you're looking at here, this is 233rd. When it's raining hard enough, that whole street will be covered with water. It'll have a thin film. It'll have a river on each one that meet in the middle. Same with this street. And this is the only pipe for 13 acres to carry it out. And by extending it and dropping it 5 feet, they basically doubled, tripled the flow rate. And these street engineers, these redneck cowboy engineers decided, well, we don't have to worry. First of all, we grew up here in Buckeye. It doesn't rain in Buckeye. It never rains in Buckeye like it does in Fountain Hills and Cave Creek and places like that. Chandler, we don't get those storms out here in Buckeye. So as far as needing a drain up here, we don't need it. Okay? We'll take it out of service. Plus, the golf course, we're not going to burden the golf course with torrential flooding rains and having to make the golf course absorb that rain. If we do that, the golf course, if the storms are bad enough, it could put the golf course out of business for maybe a day or 2. Put that cash register out of business. Heaven forbid. This golf course is going to represent Buckeye. It's going to bring people to Buckeye. It's going to bring commerce to Buckeye. As far as being a skid plate in a storm, I don't think so. The enterprising people that put all this together years ago said, no way. All right? Now, not only did they say no way, but they sabotaged my lot. This is Lot Sabotage. All right? Let me tell you what this is. I put a deep sink out in the garage. That was about the only thing I added to that garage. I didn't add coach lights. I didn't add wiring to the garage, plug-ins out near the garage door or anything like that. So I had a deep sink. I just thought, well, I'll put a deep sink out there. So this is a drain for the deep sink. This is the drain for the washer and dryer. This is the toilets and the shower right here. The toilet and the shower are right there. Okay. I'll get to another one. But these are all low. Every one of these is low. When they fill in the cement and the cement fills in around these pipes, those pipes, where they go into the cement, are 2.5 inches low. All right? You literally degraded the flow rate. Now we're on the other end of the house, and I'll show you. There's the tub. There's the sinks. There's the toilet. Okay? This is the master bedroom with the bump out. Out here I've got the kitchen with the bump out. It cost me, I think it was quite a bit of money to add this patio. That was an add-on. The patio. These people didn't have to add a patio. They didn't. I added one. Okay? covered patio, 10 feet wide, about 31 feet long. And I want to show you, this used to be the gold tee right there. That's only about 100 yards away, 80, 90 yards away from where he's standing. The guy right here is trying to hit it about 150 yards. How often do you think that these yards get hit by golf balls? And I want to show you this little tree. That's not a little tree anymore. All right. All this over here and this tee box right here is even closer. And what they do on a daily basis, they've moved this tee box back. They made it bigger. It was an abbreviated tee box. Okay. They moved it back. They made it all where you can't tell where the tee box ends and where it. Here we go. This is years later. I showed you it before they ever put a pad down. Here's what they put at the end of that cart path. They didn't do anything. They didn't try to disguise it or anything. They, after they buffaloed everybody, after they baited it and switched everybody, and they got nobody to complain. I'm the only person that's complaining. I'm Chris Christie. I'm Kinzinger. I'm Adam Kinzinger. I'm Joe. I'm Morning Joe. I'm a different point of view for what happened here. As far as I'm concerned, this was all taken out of service for this buyer and the other buyer. Okay? They put a tree now at the end of this. My opinion is that they tapped off the community water supply for this tree. That we're watering that tree on their yard. It's not hard for me to imagine that this tree is being watered by the same water that waters these plants. All these watered plants are being watered by the community. Okay? This was done about 6 years. In 5 or 6 years, that's what that tree had grown to. That tree isn't any more than 7 or 8 years by the time it gets to there. Okay? This tree is a couple years old. All right? They took this out of service. It was never in service. It was a decoy. Here's what the real thing looked like. Again, here I am. Let me blow this up. Let me show you what they did. How they co-opted this cart path easement, this drain, everything else, how they co-opted it. This is graft. This is what a lot of what I consider people who join clubs, fraternities, especially secret fraternities. This is why they join secret fraternities. So that they'll have a club or an organization that can help them do things like this. Okay? This is graft. This is fraternal graft. All right? This was taken out of service, filled in, and it was never going to drain. The only thing that resembled the drain was over here. And these plants are on a ridge that's higher than here. All the water that comes off this roof ran to the backyard and onto my lot. This was all filled in. The base of this tree right here, you just saw a picture of it at like 8, 9 years old. It was huge. All right. The base of that tree is 29 inches, 19 and a half inches above the sidewalk and 29 feet away. Okay. Thank you very much. This is how they thanked me for my service. All right? This was supposed to be the ultimate outfall elevation. Look it up in your Buckeye manuals. Anybody that's got a civil engineering job with the Buckeye civil engineering department, look up ultimate outfall elevation. Ultimate outfall elevation is defined as when the normal drainage pipe fails, or a backup to the normal drainage pipe, or where the water is going to leave the parcel. If the normal drainage pipe fails, where the water is going to leave the parcel. Where is it going to leave? Where is the ultimate outfall elevation? They moved the ultimate outfall elevation from here, 45 feet to the west, and put it between my house and the other house, and they filled this in. There was no way. My finished floor elevation for my garage in my house is 16.5 inches above the sidewalk. This is 19, the base of this tree is 19.5 inches. The floor of the garage in this house is 17.5 inches. All right, it's supposed to be 19 inches, same as a tree. Mine is 16.5 inches above the manhole cover. All right, it's supposed to be 19 inches, the same as the tree. But when they put this tree in and they filled it in, they moved the ultimate outfall elevation. Now, if you can imagine a river coming down here in a hard rainstorm when it's pouring, when the sky opens up. I've seen it. The sky opens up. It's a deluge. And not only that, but you got a river coming in there converging on this pipe right here. If anything happens to that pipe, and the rationale for filling this in, and the reason that they were all patting themselves on the back, all these redneck, stupid engineers, they were all patting each other on the back, congratulating themselves for figuring out that if we triple the flow or double the flow rate of that pipe, if we extend the pipe, if we if we redesign the golf course and move the pipe down to the lake, we will almost more than double the flow rate in that pipe. It'll exceed what mag limits are. They'll exceed, if it was in Scottsdale or any other place in developed Arizona, like in Mesa or any place like that, we'd have to evolve. We would have to dig this out, and we'd have to make it. But we're in Buckeye. And we're just dumb enough and stupid enough, and we're going to rationalize that since we've doubled the flow rate of this pipe, it's never going to flow. This will never be needed. This will never be needed. Even though there's two rivers coming down converging on this one pipe here, it'll never be needed because we've over doubled, maybe doubled or almost tripled the flow rate. So it's going to be able to handle a lot more water. But you just broke a rule. You just broke the rule. You redesigned the golf course. You filled this in, right? Now my lot, and these flowers right here, this was a little ridge. This is a ridge that runs all the way to the road. So as the water comes off the roof, it runs back here. It doesn't run uphill it can't run uphill because it's been filled in. Now, the low spot over here is right here. We'll see. But you're seeing pictures from different times. Again, here we are. I had a lot of pride when I would take pictures and look across. This was the day. This was the day that I put an offer on the other two lots. So for all the people who, I think it was Jeff Schwartz's wife in a meeting one night. The meeting kind of fell apart when Pat Pence Young come over and treated me like I was a remedial child, stood over me with her finger pointed in my face. I had Jeff Schwartz sitting next to me as a goon, the goon Jeff Schwartz. Let me tell you that story, why I go into meetings late. And when I figured out to always go in late, they stopped me from going to meetings. When they found out that my strategy was to walk in after the meeting started and pick my seat before somebody could surround me or sit next to me to shut me up, they quit letting me go to meetings. He's a wild card. Well, I'm going to tell you what happened in a meeting. These houses right here are, okay, get back to the meeting. I'm in the meeting. It was like an informal meeting. It was around July or August. A couple years into me owning this. I had the houses for a couple years. And I had put, when my girlfriend moved into this house, I moved into the other house. I never lived in this house. Okay? It was lived in by my girlfriend and some other people, but I never lived in it until I started about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when I sold this house. When I sold the house here, I moved into here. My girlfriend, who she'd rather be in Carson City than here in Buckeye. She doesn't know anybody here. And people aren't really that friendly here. They're the type of people, they got to know who you are and where you're from. And if you're from the wrong place, you're kind of ostracized. We want like-minded people in here. It's very polarized for Trump-type people. All I do is watch YouTube all day and watch podcasts. And I watch podcasts of people who criticize Trump. Okay? So I'm not alone. I'm a Vietnam era veteran who went overseas, but I didn't go to Vietnam. I was overseas in Iwakuni, Japan. But I had gone overseas. I spent 4 years to the day in the Marine Corps from 68 to 72. This is a time in the Marine Corps where if you enlisted for 3 years and you went to Vietnam within 6 months and you got out with a year and a half left, they let you go. If you were 0311 infantry or anything, a ground pounder, artillery, anything like that, you were let out early. When you got home, no matter if you had 16, 20 months left on your enlistment, they discharged you. Why? They didn't want to feed you. And I'll tell you, like in Camp Lejeune, if you got stationed in Camp Lejeune when you got back from Vietnam, first of all, you got back with a ton of money. And the first thing you did, and I saw everybody do it when they got back with about $3,000 or $4,000 in the bank. They went out and bought a brand new Z28 Camaro or a Ford GT, 390, whatever. They bought the biggest, hottest car they could find, and they swooped. Every month you get a 96-hour pass from Camp Lejeune. No matter where you live on the East Coast, no matter where you live on the East Coast, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Buffalo, where I lived, Albany. I had a friend that commuted every week. Whenever he got a 96-hour pass, he commuted from Camp Lejeune to Port Henry, New York, it was like about a 1,500-mile drive or more. All right? Well, they were losing Marines like crazy. First of all, the roads in North Carolina, South Carolina, anywhere down south, the roads suck. Okay? And they sucked then. They were mismarked. Everything was tribal knowledge. And if you went in to ask for directions from anybody, the guy was so slow in giving you directions that you got frustrated and walked out. All right? Because he knew what your predicament was. And it was one of these, you can't get there from here type of deals. Okay? So, Marines were dying like flies on the highways of the East Coast. And the Marine Commandant and the Pentagon decided these guys are going to do this no matter what. We can't tell them they can't go home on a 96-hour pass. But once they get back down here, they go home, they deal with all the nice freeways up there, and when they get back down south here, they're all played out, tired, half dead. They run off the road, and they're getting killed, so we let them out. Well, that wasn't the case for me. I was in the Air Wing. I signed for 4 years. I was in for 4 years, right to the day. I went in on May 8th, got out on May 7th. Thank you very much. Okay? I'm sorry I go off on this, but when I see Donald Trump calling people who carried a Stars and Bars flag, the Confederate flag, they busted into the Capitol, they were trespassing. When I see that as somebody who served 4 years in the Marines during 68 to 72, got out with an honorable discharge. I was in Navy aviation, like John McCain was in Navy aviation. Any of you people know about Navy aviation? You have to take off on a carrier. You have to land on a carrier. And when you take off on a carrier and land on a carrier, all you're looking at is ocean. You got no navigation aids. All right? John McCain, I'm sick. It makes me want to puke when I see a Marine salute Donald Trump or the Marine Corps flag fly anywhere near him. If Donald Trump wants to get my vote, go down, have Donald Trump in a rainstorm where he can get his hair wet and his dye washed off his face like Rudy Giuliani, okay? Have Donald Trump go down to the Vietnam Memorial alone, by himself. Build a little seat for him, a little altar where he can go down there solitary by himself, all by himself, without his entourage. Then I want him to turn around and face all those dead names and tell them how they were losers. Have them tell them what a bunch of losers they were. The people who died trying to land maybe an airplane on a carrier. He'd just done a bombing run over Hanoi. He's coming back. It's night. It's raining. All right? A rainstorm. He's low on fuel. Maybe he had to ditch in the ocean. Maybe he missed the first. He crashed his plane. And he died. And his name's on the wall. I want Donald Trump to tell that guy that the real patriots in this country were the people who charged the Capitol. You're not patriots. You're losers. The real patriots are the people who supported me in charge. The patriots who carried the Confederate flag into the Capitol Rotunda. The patriot who put his feet up on the Speaker of the House desk. The patriot that went in there with the horns on his head and his face painted, screaming and hollering like a bandy Indian. Now, those people Trump and all his supporters, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Nancy Mace, want to let all those people out of jail. All the money that the American taxpayer has spent to put these people in jail, right? And Trump has promised that he's going to let those patriots out of jail. Okay? Donald Trump makes me ashamed to be a white person. Donald Trump and all the people who vote for him are fearmongers. The fearmonger is that we might have Kamala Harris, a person of color as a president again. That was the closing statement that Nikki Haley made last night. The last thing she said before leaving the stage was, do you want Kamala Harris to be your vice president? A fear tactic. I watched these people going into the polls in New Hampshire and in Iowa. These white people, these white people, they're afraid of being replaced. Let me tell you how I've seen immigrants replace white people. When I lived in San Francisco and I worked for United, they had immigrants from everywhere in the Pacific. Philippines, Vietnam, you name it, Thailand. These people came in here, got their citizenship, and worked harder than the white people. I lived next to an Asian family. I never saw them. They were all working. The children worked. The mother and father worked. They were never at home. They were always working. What America and the white America is worried about is those people end up buying the house next to you. They work hard for 20 years. They save up. They don't adopt the American lifestyle. They work. Every day they see, I can make dollars in this country. And I'll tell you, as a white person, I took that for granted. All right? White people want to go on ski trips. They want to go on cruises. This lifestyle, for everybody that says that the economy is tanking, are you kidding me? I get emails from Verado to come and play golf at $205 for a round of golf. And you're telling me the economy's tanking? I don't think so. I looked at a little single-wide trailer up in Carson City last week that was about 900 square feet. It was tiny on a small lot. They were asking, and it was old. It was like 30 years old. It was two people. There's no way two people could ever inhabit that house and be happy. They were asking $299 for it. And it sold. It just sold this week. So, don't tell me that the economy is in the tank. Right now, it leaped. I mean, the stock market saw 3,700 for about a week. For about a week or two, the stock market was in that 36 to 3,800 range, 3,700. Guess what? It's well over 38 now, in less than a month. So don't tell me about how the economy's in the tank. All right? I was selling real estate up in Seattle in 1978 when Jimmy Carter got defeated by I want to look again. Here we go. I'll stop my spiel just to show you, but you want to see antiquated? Right now, in reality, this is higher than what you see here. They hadn't started building yet. From about here to here to that cart path, they added more dirt. That's why you got this big crevice right here. It's so steep that when water starts falling down that steep, it carves out a crevice. All right? But this was the spring of 2003 right here, 2004. the spring, it was either the fall of 2003 or the spring of 2004. That's what it looked like, okay? For anybody that wants to know, any realtors out there, that's when they, like I said, they had a thing that said 99,000. Here we go again. But here's my sink, and that's 2.5 inches low. There's the tub, 2.5 inches low. There's the toilet, 2.5 inches low. There's the vanity, 2.5 inches low. There's a vanity. All right, there's a toilet. All right. They dropped everything 2.5 inches. Don't you understand? Your $100 lien means nothing compared to the lien that's on this house forever and ever. As long as this house stands the way it is got a forever lien or encumbrance, whatever, an encumbrance, a restriction on the sewer pipes. All right? Maybe somebody gets that. Does anybody understand? Now, the tee boxes are right where they used to be. These houses get hit all the time. These houses are always getting hit. Okay? Let me see if I can show you here. They have it. How they landscaped, how Creative Environments landscaped my lot. What they did to me here. All right. When Creative Environments put a tree, that's the thing. I was getting back to Creative Environments. They'd give you the free one. Then you had to hire them for the backyard. I gave 3 Creative Environments who had the contract to do all the front yards with Meritage. I gave Creative Environments $3,000 extra to put add a pad to this. I hired Creative Environments to finish off the backyards. They gave me a map. Well, I'll tell you, like right here, they put a tree. Then I had a tree here at one time. But when they put a tree for this house, guess where they put the tree? Instead of putting a tree right here, so when it grew out and bloomed out, it would protect my patio, they had a tree here, sort of like, but this tree right here, this tree, were put there on the corner, on the tee box corner of the lot. They put the tree to protect the house from stray balls. Well, being naive and not knowing and being stupid, naive, a layman, I didn't know what they were going to do to me, but what they did to me is when they planted a tree right here, right off the corner of this lot. They made sure the tree, and that tree grew out. It grew out big, all right? And it sheltered their windows. They could have put it here, but the word is out. We don't like him. He's an outsider. He's not one of us, okay? And another thing is, I'll tell you, I paid $3,000 for Creative Environments to put in a half circle pad added to my patio. Just a pad that sits out there. The guy that bought in this house, his name was Gordy. His wife's name was Judy. They were from back Pennsylvania or something like that. But he came over while they were laying the pad. And he bragged this to me. He came over and bragged it to me. He bragged. He came over and while they were laying the pad, he made a deal with the laborer that laid the pad, who was hired by Creative Environments to put a pad here for $3,000. He came over, he bragged this to me. He bragged it to me. He goes, I come over and talk to the guy. He says he came over on the weekend, and for $800, he put a pad in. He didn't get permission. This was way, way before the HOA. This was when Meritage was running everything. And nobody knew about it. I didn't say anything. I kept my mouth shut. But it wasn't until I started getting letters and things like that that I realized this guy come out here and without permission or knowledge, and I will show you that his is out of compliance. I had a guy that was here originally. I'm going to tell you again, this is the house, this is the lake. This is lot 317. This is the middle of the tract. This is a succulent that was built and put in the middle of the tract. Everything runs downhill to the patio from here. Everything runs downhill to there. There's a ditch that runs along this house. And when the water delivers out to here, then it takes the western path. It doesn't break toward the tee box. We're not going to let the water on the tee box. Okay? We're not going to let a monsoon storm put the golf course out of business for 2 or 3 days. It's not going to happen. And I think this might have been realtor sign. I heard the first people that bought here, the first people that bought this house bailed out for some reason. And it had to be resold. And this may be the sign of the lady that did it. Either that or it's a contractor's sign. It could be a contractor's sign for somebody like over here doing work. But through the grapevine scuttlebutt, I heard that the first people bailed on this house. And maybe they found out what they had done to this. Maybe they found out what had been done to their sewer pipes. They did to their sewer pipes to this house what they did to my sewer pipes, only not as bad. This one got dropped. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go through this again since I've got the 3 components. The manhole cover is right there. 29 feet away is the base of the tree and 19.5 inches above the manhole cover. Now, from the manhole cover to there, floor was 17.5 inches, maybe 40 feet away. It could be 40 feet to the center of the garage door from the thing, and it was 17.5 inches. 2.5 inches lower than the base of the tree and closer to the sidewalk. Now, over here, this driveway, the garage floor measured from here with the water levels, measures out at 16.5 inches above the manhole. So you've got a house here, 16.5 inches above the manhole cover there. You got a house here, 17.5 inches above the manhole cover. And now you've got your access easement that's graded to 29 feet from the manhole cover. It's graded to 2 inches higher than this guy's driveway or his garage floor. Now, the drain is right here. Any backup on that drain, and like I said, the goofballs that did this, it's like Trump calling people patriots. These Buckeye patriots decided that these Buckeye patriots, these white supremacists decided we're going to take care of this guy, we're going to take care of this guy, we're taking this out of service, this right here where this tree is, where this arrow is where the water is going to go out of the neighborhood. It's the ultimate outfall elevation for all of Parcel 12. It isn't going to leave the neighborhood here. You see this thing? This is sitting on flat ground. It's uphill. You can see everything is uphill to the tree. It's not uphill here. The water can back up here until it gets to this lot, and then it's going to go out, right? No matter if it's a torrential monsoon, if it's the 200-year storm, where we're getting 2 or 3 inches an hour, where you've got 2 rivers, all right? Or maybe you get a windstorm first that knocks down limbs, and all of a bunch of limbs and stuff gets blown up against this drain to where it's plugged up, and it starts backing up. But I was told that this was sold twice, and I don't know, I can't blow it up to see what it says on the sign. Like I said, yeah, she had to sell this house. She had to sell it, and maybe the reason she had to sell it was the people found out what they did to the finished floor elevation. Maybe they were tuned in. Maybe they had people in the Sundance community that they could count on to tell them the truth. Maybe they got word that, hey, you sabotaged my pipes, my sewer pipes, all right? And she sold it to the Marinos. I've had conversations with Jill Marino right here before she sold the house. And I would tell her, once I found out that this is, when I had Woody Skelton's letter that this has been all filled in and it was out of compliance and they weren't digging it out. They had that letter for almost 1.5 years before they did anything. I had to go to jail. I had to be arrested and go to jail before they did anything here. If this were to ever back up for any reason, the water was going to go. Here was a highway that was designed by the losers who run the second floor. And the losers that are working for Buckeye on the second floor right now don't want to talk to me. All right? I have to go get a lawyer. And I've found there aren't too many lawyers, Arizona lawyers, that are sympathetic with California buyers, especially when they hear my story that I came in and bought 3 houses, that I bought too much toilet paper. This is a track. It doesn't look like this now. When I got arrested and they had to start working, they worked another one besides this, but they took this out of service like it was. This was what it originally was. It was taken out of service. This doesn't drain. It goes uphill, right? And it wasn't a cart path. And they put the utility thing right in the middle of it. All right? Now, we take a look at it now, it's filled with leach rock. But this is what they did before they had... This is what it was originally. And this right here is a duplicate of the drain that's in Tract 8. This is a duplicate of the drain. This is another one that suffered the dishonesty of graft. The people in this neighborhood lost their cart path easement, their pedestrian path easement, and they lost their open water for any surface water that would back up here. They lost that. Any surface water back up here, it isn't going that way. Okay? It's going to stay in the neighborhood. Here it is. We're looking at it from the other end a lot earlier. This is what, here's another decoy they sold. They dug out another fake. This is the 4th hole. This is a turn on the 4th hole. All right. And they did the same thing here. They dug out a dummy. They dug out a dummy. They had one all dug out. They sold it. Once it got sold to the inspector, the second set of eyes, they filled it in. They moved the plants around. They took it out of service. Okay? This is the east side of the 4th fairway. Okay? And up here somewhere is, up here a little ways, is Tract H. Okay, which they honored. Like I said, does that look like a drain to you? This looks like welfare. This looks like HOA welfare. This is a privacy entitlement. Here they did it right. This is off the First Fairway. I think Chuck Milosevic owns a house here or next to it. But Chuck made sure that he's got the right kind of drain in his neighborhood. Everybody in this neighborhood should give thanks that they have a proper drain. We don't have one. They booby-trapped my house, sabotaged my house to be a drain. All right, here's the substitute. They gave this right here. This is an arboretum. It's a green belt. It's a scenic easement. It's a common area for scenic. It's a common area that's taken out of service. All right, here's another one taken out of service. You're going to see here, they took this whole thing out of service. Right now, if you go over here, there's plants everywhere here. There's no way, you can't even walk through here. You got to step over a plant to walk here. And they destroyed the drain function. The pitch that's supposed to be on this walk isn't there. Okay? These two people were gifted. They're probably from the Midwest. They probably got farms back in the Midwest. They don't want to see golf carts. They don't have golf carts on their farm in the Midwest. They don't want to see them here. But I'm going to show you here as we go along a variation of this. Here again, here's our tree. We're back in our neighborhood. This tree right here, they had to cut it down. It was such a monster. And when I say they put the tree there to protect windows, this is the Silver Spur model. All Silver Spur models have this array of windows. See, this tree was to protect, this tree was to protect his window. And you can see right here, I often talk about the ditch, that the high ground, you can see the tree is the crown. This has a crown on it, and where it crowns and ends is right here at the side. Here's the ditch the water has to take to get out of the neighborhood. Here you go again.
This fall, HHS announced that 500,000 children regained coverage after working with states on reported systems issues. In the interim, as state agencies wrap up this year's Medicaid eligibility checks, community healthcare clinics like Dr. Former's are stepping up.
Here we go. What you're looking at right now is a undisclosed, undocumented retention basin that was put on somebody's lot. And the document, the drainage document for the town of Buckeye says you can't put a retention basin on a residential lot. It's forbidden. You can't do it. Here it is. Uphill. You know how much water this little basin that they built here, this little dipper to hold water? I mean, during the 100-year storm, my patio was underwater. The water was up to here. It started leaking out. All right? The water was wall to wall here. When it stopped raining, it started receding here where the arrow was. All that water between the two houses going back past the air conditioning unit. All this water had to be soaked under the house. It was supposed to be graded to ride onto the golf course. It doesn't do that. Here again, ground zero. Everything is uphill. I brought a surveyor out here. When it was dry, I told him my patio's going underwater. He told me on the phone, I'll put my equipment in the car, I'll come out and I'll see if I can help you. He came out here and he stood right there where the arrow is when it was dry. And I told him, I said, and he took one look. It took him about 2 minutes. And he says, I don't have to take my stuff out of the car. I don't even need my equipment to measure this. He goes, I've been doing this 35 years. I can tell by eye that they made you it. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, they made you it. Everything from this spot is uphill. All right? It isn't supposed to be that way. I've been doing this for years, and all lots are supposed to drain. And this doesn't drain. All right? You got a berm. I can see it. All right? So that was my first indication. Here's a professional in the business with 35 years of experience telling me, like, I've got 30 years experience fixing airplanes. This guy's got 35 years experience, two professionals talking to each other, and he tells me, you're it. They made you the water mule. They made you the water bitch up here. Okay? Your job is to store water above right here. You see where the bowl is? They cupped all this out. Everything runs backwards. This is the wet spot. If a guy was suspecting that his wife was cheating on him, he looks for the wet spot. When he comes home in the bed, there it is. There's the wet spot. You cheated me. Everything is uphill from here, and that's what he told me 10 years after I bought. And he's also the one that told me, because you own the property, you can go downtown and you can get the grading map and you can get the utility map. And you go down and get them. And that's what I did. Right here. You see that? The water used to get up to this level. All around the patio would go underwater. All right? This cement right here in the patio is rotted. It's rotted cement. And I would say that the pad underneath the house is all rotted. It's crumbled. It's filled with rot. Why? Because every time it rains, this fills up with water and the water can't get out. All right? We're not going to stop any money going into the cash register. Here it is, the wet spot. They dropped this house 1.5 inches. They dropped this one 2.5 inches. Look at this eave. That's 75 feet right there of Niagara Falls when it's raining hard. And the water can't get out. Right now, they didn't grade it for, but when Creative Environments came in, I'll show you in other pictures, they put this arc right here. An arc of a berm right here to capture all the water and keep it moving backwards to my house. They put a berm across my house. My yard right here had a berm across it that was higher than a patio. The water couldn't get out. I got gutters on my house. I've got 3 pipes. The money I spent to rent heavy equipment, to buy piping, everything else to correct this situation. Right now, I turned this from retention to detention. The difference between retention and detention is detention, you detain the water. It collects here, but you have a pipe. I now have a pipe that the water can get out. It'll be temporarily pool here, but within a couple of minutes, it'll be out of here. That's detention. Now retention is there's no pipe. When you have a retention, the rule for a retention, it can exist for 36 months. For 36 hours, I mean. I'm getting like Donald Trump. I'm talking too much. I think I'm doing pretty good. But when I brought Woody Scouten and Norm Marcotte, and who shows up but Edwin Kelly, 3 of them were standing right here. And I asked him, I said, you see the ring around the tub right here where the water can't get out, where it stops here, where all the debris, all the little pine needles and stuff and leaves left a ring around the tub right here? It hasn't even left the lot. And he agreed. Woody Scouten agreed. I said, what do I said, I have to get this water off the lot. The lot he said, you can do. Woody Skelton in front of Edward Kelly told me face to face, you can do whatever you have to do to get the water off your lot. Quote. That was Woody Skelton, the town engineer, telling me, I see what the problem is. It's landlocked. It can't get out. I'm giving you permission to do whatever you have to do to get the water off your lot. That was over 10 years ago. That's when it was like this. This is what I was burdened with. And you can see where the paint is rotted because it's wet all the time. It never dries. That's why that paint along that house, this picture probably is only a couple years old from the paint job, and you've already got rotted paint. Why? Because you've always got water. Right here. Right here. Here it is. There's the wet spot. This is the way it started. Everything is uphill from here. Okay? Makes me embarrassed to be a white person. Makes me embarrassed to be a white person. Okay? You see what Creative Environments did when they came in? They put this, they planted their in an arc to keep the water up here. Everything here, the water doesn't, when it's raining, I'll have a video of rainstorms, the water pools here. All right? Up here. It isn't going on. And this is one of my last pictures. Remember that picture I showed you back in 2023 where I had a view of the lake? Where I had a view of the lake? Huh? Remember that? That I had a complete view of the lake. I could see all the houses across the lake. Here's what I have now. That is a thorny Palo Verde. That is one of the worst trees to work with as far as pruning or trimming because it has long, ugly thorns on it. They planted that shortly after I bought the lot. When they found out this guy who's not one of us, he hasn't given us a handshake. He hasn't knocked. He hasn't joined one of our churches. He hasn't made any attempt to get to know anybody in Buckeye. Nobody knows him. All we know is we got a name that we don't recognize in Arizona. We don't recognize that name. Anybody ever heard of a Lasham before? Anybody? Anybody ever heard of a Lasham before? He must be an immigrant to come across that California border. He's an immigrant coming here to poison our bloodline in Buckeye. So we have to make him pay. We have to make him pay. And we're not going to tell him. We're not going to tell him. And the last, what I want to close with is, I don't know, I'm going to go with this, that, again, right now, my last bill for my dues, that came in December, my penalty to lien on my house, the $100 lien that started in October 1st of 2023, that $100 a day lien has now grown in a year to almost $50,000. All right, and when I send in checks, the checks, they're certified mail, signed receipt. The checks have gone through the bank. I have the canceled checks to prove they've gone through the bank. Well, right now, it'll give you a headache to try to read the dues bill they send out. They've got it itemized, $100 a week, $100 a week, $100 a week, $100 a week. And in all that sum, and they total that down at the bottom of like 40-some thousand so far, and it's been a little over a year. We've been a little over a year, and they've got this on me. Now, the reason I want to show you this is I never had a hearing. When they kicked me out of the HOA 7 years ago, it's about 7 years ago I got kicked out of the HOA by Carolyn Clinton, and she kicked me out based on one word. She put on the letter, you're combative, you're considered combative, your behavior has been considered combative, and we're pulling your key card, and you can no longer participate. But I'm still paying dues. But I want to, under Arizona law, an HOA may not issue a fine until it first offers you a hearing before the board of directors. That's bold letters. Right here. That's like Donald Trump capitalizing. It says, not until you offer me a hearing in front. If the HOA provides you an opportunity for a hearing before, if the HOA fails to provide you an opportunity for a hearing before the fine is imposed, the fine is illegal and not enforceable. Okay? Anybody get that? In bold letters. This is like Donald Trump doing everything in capitals. There it is. You can't issue a fine before you give me a hearing. Now, the reason I haven't challenged any of the things, like when I got kicked out of the HOA by her on one word, combative, she sent me a letter to Charlie Waters went to the police department, and because he gave the town of Buckeye $72,000 in 3 years, they gave him the immunity of charging me basically with assault inside the HOA without taking a statement from him. In this day and age in Buckeye, it's normal operation, it's operating procedure, normal operating protocol that whenever somebody makes a complaint, the officer goes up with a camera on him that has video and audio and takes the complaint. Charlie Waters called up the police, and the policeman gave him immunity from this. He told the police I had been kicked out of the HOA. He even indicated on his police statement that he thought there was something wrong with me. I'll tell you what's wrong with me. I'll tell you what's wrong with me. I got drafted or sold down the river in my hometown because my DNA, again, there wasn't a Lasham for like 100 miles from this little bucolic hamlet town in upstate New York who had our draft board, like every draft board in the country before they went to the lottery system, every draft board in the country was made up of the town leading citizens. Okay? Maybe the mayor, one of your persons has the leading business, Lodge Brothers, both KSC, Elk, Shriners, whatever. You have, and what happened was when the South turned Republican is when Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. When Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act to get elected, he signed it in front of Martin Luther King. He had Martin Luther King on his shoulder when he signed it in front of the world. He got reelected by the black vote. And what he did is, that's when the Republicans started turning to the South. That's the when the Republicans started to become anything but the Republican Party. They aligned with Barry Goldwater. Barry Goldwater aligned himself with Southern Democrats, white supremacists. Okay? You're not going to replace us type theory. The only way that Johnson, and to tell you how evil Johnson was, Johnson made up to his Southern Democrats who thought that he had screwed them by the Civil Rights Act. All the Southern Democrats turned against Johnson because he signed the Civil Rights Act. He made up for it a year later when he started the Vietnam War. First of all, all the middle class of America, the middle class, I'm talking upper middle class, the people that could afford to send their children to college, the people who could afford to have a portfolio of stocks, of American stocks. Those type of people, upper middle class, upper middle class, were made up the membership of just about every draft board in America. They were geographically located to some little town. They were given a population to pull people out and send down the river. I went through that. The town I grew up in was a World War II boom town. And the reason I was born and grew up in that town is my father came to town during World War II in 1938. All right, he was a newcomer. So I was a first generation Lasham, born and raised in my town. Now you have to understand that before the war started, that town was an established town that had been around for over 100 years with the community. It had a community. There were some names. The last name, there'd be 25 of them in the book, phone book. Seemed like, all right. White Anglo-Saxon names, they were everywhere, and the town had history with those people. The town had history with those people, knew who they were, knew who their cousins were. They went to school together. Well, the people now, this group of thugs that call themselves the Selective Service, your draft board. It was a local draft board made up of local thugs, made up of local lodge brothers, local politicians, local businessmen. All right? If you didn't buy cars from this guy, if your father never bought a car from this guy that was on the draft board, or never intended to, you were top of the list. If you bought a car from him every other year, your son wasn't on the list. All right? If you were on the draft board and your son was in love with a girl and she didn't love him back, she loved someone else, you draft him. You see her, she'd be the perfect daughter-in-law for me. So these people on the draft board, they get rid of the guy she's in love with. They send him down the road. They send him sold down the river. I got sold down the river by my hometown, by the draft board. All right? Masons, Shriners, businessmen, KSC. All right? All of them. We don't want his DNA here. We don't want his DNA mixing with our DNA. All right? The same thing happened here in Buckeye. All right? I got drafted twice in Buckeye. All right? I got drafted twice. When I bought a house here from California and they realize that they didn't recognize the name, he's an outsider, we're going to draft him just like his draft board drafted him 55 years ago back in New York. We don't like him. He don't belong here. He's not one of us. Thank you for listening. All right? This is the way, like I said, living in Buckeye makes me to be, will make you ashamed to be a to be ashamed to be a white person. No. It makes me ashamed to be a white person. All right? To think that I pay taxes and dues to this HOA in this state. All right? Because right now, Buckeye is out of everybody's jurisdiction. Every time I go to talk to a lawyer, no lawyer will talk to me. The last one to talk to me said, write me a check for $20,000. Put me on retainer right now or shut up and leave my office. Either put me on retainer or shut up and leave my office. I don't want to hear another thing about it. Because all you do is compromise my integrity when I find out that they cheated over there. Like, that's why no realtor right now wants to deal with me. They won't deal with me because you're a blabbermouth. You're a whistleblower. All right? You won't drink the Kool-Aid. You won't goose step. You don't accept the Lebensstrom. Those people that bought on each side of that easement, first buyers, second buyers, bought with the idea is we need living space. What Hitler called Lebensstrom. We're from the Midwest. We have farms and orchards out there. We don't have golf carts going by our house there. We're not going to have them here. Now, if you give us a rebate or a refund of taking that out of service, we'll buy here. And meanwhile, you screwed me. Right? I'll stop here.
There have been about 2,000